Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Hello and welcome to this presentation on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and for that free PDF handout, click the link in the comments bar below. It'll take you to the website where you can download that handout and see a lot more information on the work of Abraham Maslow. In this video you will learn about the founder of the theory, the historical background of the theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, criticisms of the theory, the takeaways from the theory, and Maslow's legacy. So the founder of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, unsurprisingly, was Abraham Maslow. American psychologist Abraham Harold Maslow, born in 1908 and he died in 1970. And he was best known for creating Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a theory of psychological health. A little bit of historic background about Maslow. He grew up in Brooklyn, New York, as the eldest of 7 children. Growing up, he was afraid of his father and described his mother as schizophrenic. He was described as smart but shy and remembered his childhood as lonely and rather unhappy. It was the horrors of World War II that inspired Maslow to pursue groundbreaking research into self-actualization under the supervision of 2 mentors, anthropologist Ruth Benedict and Gestalt psychologist Max Wertheimer. Maslow's research challenged the psychological orthodoxy of psychoanalysis and behaviorism, paving a way for a new paradigm of humanism, or, as it's referred to, the third force in psychology. And don't forget, if you want a free handout on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, click down below on the comments bar. It will take you straight to that PDF handout and lots of information on Maslow. So Maslow is famous, of course, for his hierarchy of needs. He introduced the theory in 1943 in the research journal Psychological Review, and his article entitled A Theory of Human Motivation outlined that humans have 5 sets of needs which are accessed in a particular order. Humans need to access the needs one level at a time. As that level is satisfied, they can access the next level. At least that's the theory. And as you can see on the right, here is a classic triangle for Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with the physiological right at the base, and then we work our way up through safety, love and belonging, esteem, and then to self-actualization. And for a lot of people, that actually is the model that they use, that is very familiar to a lot of people. However, what isn't so well known is that in 1969, Maslow actually changed his hierarchy of needs. He added another level to them. And this was published in The Farther Reaches of Human Nature, or it was entitled The Farther Reaches of Human Nature. And it was published in 1969 in the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology. 1969, of course, was a year before Maslow's death in 1970. In this, Maslow outlined what values a human being needs to embrace in order to reach this 6th level of actualization, and he called those intrinsic values. And he described the idea as follows: the fully developed and very fortunate human being working under the best conditions tends to be motivated by values which transcend his self. They are not selfish anymore. So when we think of this intrinsic value, we think of people who may be, incredibly wealthy or incredibly successful, but seem not to, use their success for anything other than helping people. It may even be that some people aren't incredibly wealthy. One person who I think really sums up intrinsic values was, of course, Mother Teresa, who was selfless in her work with the poor. That would be a really good example of someone who embraced that new 6th level of intrinsic values. Now, of course, Maslow has come in for some criticism, and the criticisms are that Maslow based his research on a few individuals, such as Eleanor Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, and Albert Einstein, together with the top 1% of students at his college. So when he looked for people who he believed were self-actualized, these are the kind of people he chose. Also, that the research was culturally biased. It had an ethnocentric bias, since the emphasis was almost exclusively on Americans, who were mostly educated, intelligent, male and white. The whole hierarchy does not account for individuals preoccupied with self-actualization while ignoring other needs. And you could think of people like monks. And I think an interesting one here is Vincent van Gogh, who was really interested in the aesthetic, as his paintings are testimony to. However, you could argue that taking care of himself, having lots of friends, even security of his self and his living arrangements was very, very tenuous. Yet he managed to create these beautiful pictures, and he was focused on the aesthetic. So it is possible that some individuals can jump some of the levels. And finally, the key takeaways of Maslow's theory. Well, Maslow states that our actions and behaviours are motivated by specific physiological needs, at least in the beginning. And he represents his hypothesis in a pyramid design with the most basic need at the bottom and the more complex need at the top. Maslow was a humanist who believed that people have an inborn desire to self-actualise, that is, to be all they can be. However, to achieve personal growth, individuals must meet several more basic needs, including the needs for food, safety, love and self-esteem, or at least that's what the theory tells us. And Maslow stated in his book Motivation and Personality in 1954, the science of psychology has been far more successful on the negative than the positive side. It is revealed to us much about man's shortcomings, his illnesses, his sins, but little about his potentialities. And what about Maslow's legacy? Well, Maslow's work was significant influence in the development of humanistic psychology in the work of Carl Rogers. Maslow coined the term the third force in psychology to describe how the humanistic approach was distinct from psychoanalysis and behaviourism. And if you know anything about psychoanalysis and behaviourism, you'll know really how different the humanistic approach is. And he also coined the term meta-motivation to describe how self-actualised individuals are motivated by values outside of themselves, such as seeking truth, goodness, beauty, justice and simplicity. And I think it's worth mentioning, of course, that Maslow was a member of the Human Potential movement, founded, I think, by Aldous Huxley, who wrote the books Brave New World and Doors of Perception. And in the 60s, it was the Human Potential movement was quite a powerful and influential movement in influencing governments and influencing policy within governments about how humans became self-actuated and how they had the desire for growth. And finally, don't forget, if you want more information on the work of Abraham Maslow and that free handout, click the link in the comments bar below to go to that free handout, and you better download it and store it for your studies. And as always, thank you for watching.